Congratulations. I completely agree with the membership that moving forward as a nonprofit is what is best for our institution. So now now that we're all in favor of, or at least the majority of us, I'm not present to know how many of us voted for it, but we're only playing this video because we have decided to move forward and apply for a nonprofit. We sent out a few weeks ago the proposed changes in its entirety in the hopes that the membership would vote to apply for a nonprofit status. In order to apply, though, we do have to have additional articles or at least policies added into our bylaws. And so we did some preemptive homework, and working with my attorney, who is a trust attorney who works with this specific line of business. His name is Ted Holmquist. And he and I drafted additional articles that meet the IRS requirements. So on page 10 of the proposed bylaws, we sent out some things. We begin some proposed changes. It's all in red, so if you didn't have red ink toner at home to print these, pages 10 through 16 are all in red because they're not in our bylaws now. We kept everything that was original to our bylaws in black, any changes in red. So the IRS requires us to have three specific policies. One is a conflict of interest policy that discusses compensation, the way who an interested person is, procedures to resolve conflict, double down on the recording of procedures. Something I want you to keep into consideration is that these are living and breathing. We put these together specifically to meet the IRS requirements. I know that these don't follow the formatting of our current bylaws, and they are not perfect. I'll be the first to admit these are not perfect, but they meet the requirements. And we as a board feel that none of this conflicts with any of our current policies, and really just reaffirms everything that we're doing. It's just a little wordier than we want. It specifies exactly what the IRS requires us to. And so the conflict of interest policy is in here. This is just a proposed sample one. The idea would be to accept these proposed additional articles, and then really working in subcommittee, I invite Catherine Henry and Tricia Sandlin and anyone else to join this subcommittee to really refine these. Let's revise them down, let's make them shorter, but in the interim and in the idea of saving our organization money, if we move forward and we accept these, we can immediately apply for the nonprofit status as our bylaws reflect the requirements. We've already voted as an organization to apply, but instead of waiting until next year's meeting to review these or a special session, the idea was just to streamline this. So this is a very generic conflict of interest policy. We did apply, make the changes so that it reflects our institution's values. Again, it's not perfect. It is still rough draft, but it does meet the requirements. So section 1 is the purpose, 2 is any definitions, 2 is 2 continued is procedures, any violations, recording of proceedings. We know that this is already in under the secretary's duties, but this specifies it's slightly different. Compensation, we are a nonprofit, all volunteer organization, nobody gets compensated, but in the event that we were to compensate someone for a special task, or we hired somebody's firm to run our website or perform some duties that we needed done, this is how it sort of talks about how in the interest of conflict resolution and avoiding conflict of interest, no board of director would be compensated, or their compensation would be completely negotiated without their attendance. Nobody's allowed to vote on how they get paid. Article 19 on page 14 specifically states that we are a nonprofit and that we meet the 501c3 sections under the IRS code, and this is a requirement. This statement has to be in here. in order to apply. And then something under that nonprofit is section 3 on page 15 is the dissolution, that any assets we own or monies we've earned has to be given back to another 501c3 organization. We would, in the interest of time and the history of our partnership, probably Easter seals. And that continues on for the end. So it's the dissolution of assets, the nonprofit nature statement, and the conflict of interest policy. Our original bylaws sort of talk about those things, but it doesn't specifically state it, and that's the need for these additional articles. Again, these are very rough drafts. These were just something that in the event that the membership chose to move forward with an IRA, a nonprofit application, that we would have something that fulfilled the requirements immediately. So I propose pages 10 through 16 to the membership. If someone were to move, we do need a 2/3 vote to accept any changes to our bylaws of the members in attendance. Again, this is to streamline things, and any of the details that maybe we disagree with or we find too wordy, our commitment as the subcommittee for bylaws would be to really work out the verbiage of all this over the next year, once the IRS has our application, and we can really make it more fitting to the previous 9.5 pages of our bylaws that earlier today we voted on. Thank you very much.